So here in Australia, last week was Prado 250 delivery day, where we were able to see a lot of people, a lot of content as well, people being able to get their new Prado 250s out of the dealership, picking them up, and obviously some people taking them off-road already. But with that, there has been a lot of comments on the video that myself and my dad made, where we had a look at the new Prado 250. My dad took it for a test drive and he gave his thoughts of it from the perspective of a Prado 150 owner, and we kind of gave our opinion on whether or not we think it's going to be worthwhile upgrading to the new Prado. Now, the kind of end result of that video was that we're not too sure yet, because Dad only was able to test drive the VX, and at this point he wants to test drive the GX and a couple of the other variants in the range to make up his mind. But in the meantime, we're going to be having a look at some of the comments on the video that we made earlier this week and kind of have a bit of a look at it and see what other people have said either about the Prado 250 or about their experience owning their Prado 250. So let's dive straight in to the first comment. So these comments are just a selection from the video, so feel free to go ahead and check out the comments and the replies in that video yourself. But straight away, we've got the first one from Kaikina1. We've been driving this for a week, having got the first release in Australia. If we had had a test drive, we wouldn't have bought it and are thinking of selling it. This is my passenger's viewpoint. Very high and difficult to get into, about half the storage space, glove box is tiny, door trays don't fit a water bottle, center console only has one compartment, etc., alarms at everything. You've opened a window, danger, alarm. This happens often while driving for no apparent reason. You can turn the volume down but not off. I was sitting in the car and the engine was off. Suddenly the alarm sounds. I didn't do anything. This is beyond annoying. Dashboard is high. I'm tall and it's uncomfortable to look over. No lumbar support in the front seats. The old Prado had this. Why delete it? So this was one of our first comments that we had through, and raises some very good points, and also some points that we touched on in the video, where some of the storage aspects has been a really big turn off for some people. Some people haven't really liked the fact that they've lost space in the rear due to the batteries, the 48 volt system that's in there now. Also making it high again to be able to start loading things in the vehicle. The starting point for that is high again, so you put drawers in there, everything's going to be up a little bit higher. There were also some people raised some concerns over warranty and putting things on top of the battery. So that was again another one of the comments that we got in, I think it was through our community page here, that some people were a bit concerned. Now, we're going through these comments, and guys, if you have experience with the Prado 250, please put them down in the comment section below. You can reply to these or just put some comments down in the comment section below, because like I said, that this comes from a genuine place of interest and also concern, because I'm trying to make the best decision. Here in our family, we're trying to make the best decision for whether or not it's worthwhile upgrading from our 150 to the 250. So all of the advice that you guys have down in the comment section will be greatly appreciated. Obviously, these comments raise some concerns, and it's also really good for us to take them kind of seriously as well, so that when we go and do our test drives of the different variants, these are things that we can watch out for. So let's move on to the second comment now. So comment number 2 is a little bit of a two-parter. We've got a couple here. So the first one is from Grant Turner. Just like Dad, I love camping and tow 2.8 tons of caravan. Had to cancel our altitude order and got our deposit back. We did the numbers on the payload without any 4x4 extras, and we are over. How can they say you can tow 3.5 ton? I contacted Toyota about a GVM upgrade, and they said if I get one, there's no guarantee it won't affect the warranty. Too much money for no peace of mind. Ordered the Ford Everest Tremor, 100 kilograms more payload, more power, all the towing tech, all 4x4 extras covered by warranty, 20,000 extra in my back pocket, no choice. So Grant Turner raises the concerns about the GVM upgrade, and from just me looking through forums and stuff, and I will be doing another follow-up video on what the forums are saying, because it's always good to see what all the Facebook pages and what they're saying as well, from perspective of owners, but also what the community thinks about these new four-wheel drives coming out. It's very important. So this one here is an interesting one, and it's something that I have heard as well, that the GVM upgrades aren't coming for a little bit of time. So I have heard through mostly the forums online that there is going to be about a 6 to 12 month waiting period for, I'm not sure if it's aftermarket or certain aftermarket brands that are waiting that 6 to 12 months. I'm not sure, again, if that's like a Toyota thing where they said, you can't put out a GVM upgrade for a certain amount of time, or if it takes 6 to 12 months to get certification. I'm going to leave that for people who actually know what they're talking about. But for me, it just means that if you want to get a GVM upgrade to be able to, tow, bring gear, and you're going to be over that GVM, then that's going to be something that you're going to have to wait for, especially if you want to be traveling legally, which is obviously a priority. So, interesting one there. And this guy, actually, Grant, ended up going with a Ford because he just wasn't that impressed with the Toyota's offerings. So, this is again, kind of on the same sort of topic of people being a bit concerned. Is it an upgrade? Still same old engine. This is from Steve Gordon Hall. Same old engine. The rear seat layout is an afterthought. Smaller fuel tank. AdBlue. The list goes on. So again, there's been a lot of people concerned about how this AdBlue system works. We haven't seen it too much on things like our Toyotas. We've always had DPFs in the past. So I've had numerous DPF vehicles. I've had 3 so far. I had my flatback Prado 150. I've got my current 79 series landcruiser, and also had 2023 Hilux Rogue. So they all had the DPF systems on them. Listen, I had no issues with the DPFs on mine. Mine was a 2021 model for the Prado, and it was fine. Like, I had no issues with the DPF on that, and that was probably one of the earlier DPFs that I had and that I've had experience with. But I mean, it's been fine. Haven't had any issues with the burn-offs, no issues with throwing codes or anything like that. So for me, the DPFs work fine, but it looks like that, people are moving, and the vehicle manufacturers are moving towards things like AdBlue, when at that point it just kind of begs the question of, well, if we need to be able to do all these carbon emissions, mitigation systems, is it just worthwhile going with just a petrol? I mean, yeah, here in Australia, diesel is really popular, but even I went up to the Cape, and as remote as possible can go, up north anyway. Don't know what it's like out west at this point. Haven't done any trips out there yet. But going all the way up north, they had unleaded all the way up to the top anyway. So, and it was cheaper at the top of Australia anyway. So, figure that one out. So for me, just going remote, I mean, I wouldn't have any issues taking my FJ Cruiser, which has got no emission systems on it, even though it is a bit older anyway. But it doesn't need to have DPFs, AdBlue, things like that. So even if you just have a really light hybrid system just to make it viable, yeah, I'm not too sure what the reasoning was behind this whole AdBlue thing, and it's kind of caught some people off guard because they weren't really too sure on how that works. It's kind of like like an extra tank in there. Does that count for fuel economy? They drop the fuel capacity from 160-ish liters in our 150 down to like 110 liters to the new 250. So now people are wondering, well, if the AdBlue has got however many liters in that tank, does that come into the equation of the fuel economy? So people aren't really too sure, and I'm still not too sure on how all those systems work. So maybe if Toyota haven't done so already, releasing some sort of a cool little graphic and animation about how that works would be pretty cool. Like they did with the FJ, they did all sorts of really cool graphics and stuff of how A-Track works and things to explain it to the customers. So that might be something that Toyota could look into. But again, people are still concerned about, and this was one of the things that I actually mentioned nearly a year ago now, about how it is very the video I made was pretty, eye-catching in terms of, I hate the Prado 250 when it hadn't even come out yet. But one of the things that I mentioned in there was that it had the same old engine. The initial leaks were that it had the same old 2.8 litre turbo diesel engine. So there's been no difference. So again, like for us, we're looking at potentially upgrading to the 250. It's like, well, I'm not going to upgrade for the drivetrain just to get an extra 2 speeds on the automatic, when our automatic does just fine towing anyway. So what's the problem? So for us, we just don't really see, in terms of drivetrain, talking about that just specifically, don't really see the need to upgrade there. So Steve Gordon raises some good points there. So we'll move on to the next comment, and these are interesting and they're getting me thinking as well about the 250's place in our garage and whether or not it's going to find a spot there. We'll have to find out. So we're getting towards the end of some of these comments here, guys, and this one's a bit of Bit of a doozy, this one. So the real problem, as I see it from a South African perspective, is the battery in the boot. Sad that you have to look at a 5-seater to possibly deal with and give decent packing space. Really thankful that Toyota South Africa didn't go this route. How Toyota Australia might react to any modifications in the boot area would be of concern, something that we mentioned earlier. Don't want warranties to be voided. I was fortunate enough to have gotten a 250 series in August. Awesome vehicle, very comfortable and easy to drive, but not without some issues. Gearbox is not smooth when it changes down from around third and lower, which was something that I've actually noticed in the 6-speed anyway, which is why I now drive a manual modern Toyota. Wind noise from the mirrors, very small fridge and poor storage in door panels. Reports here that when towing, the car doesn't recognize a trailer or caravan and doesn't disconnect some of the safety stuff. This has to be manually done. Then when switching off, reconnects again. Apparently the 150 series was the same, so it may not be an issue for your dad. So we don't have any of the beeps or anything like that Keith is talking about, but I can probably understand why, and I can probably see how there's going to be a lot of beeping going on in the new vehicles because there's just that many safety beeps and stuff that are going on, as I've seen and as I'm sure you guys have seen in a lot of the other YouTubers test drives, and that they've mentioned many times that there's a lot of beeps, and it's all for these safety features that you can go in and turn off, but again, you need to actually go into the system and turn it off, which, you know, it's just how cars are these days. I guess that's what people want. They want safety features, and we're just kind of, I guess, Toyota taking it up to the next level. So, interesting to hear some of the issues that Keith has, in particular about the gearbox, the wind noise, and some poor storage as well. And he does again raise a good point about whether or not if you put things on top of that battery, like say, for example, a drawer system, which I'd say a lot of people would be doing, would that impact the warranty of your Prado 250? So interesting thoughts from Keith there. Again, these are all questions that we can, I guess, get so that we can, I guess, ask our dealerships as well to see what their thoughts are on it, because at the end of the day it's going to be the dealerships that will be warranting the products, and if they tell us their product, and if that's something that they say that they can warranty, then happy days. But if not, it's always good to know where you stand. So the last comment that we have is a little bit of a funny one, so I'll bring that one up, and this is from Time Trends, and it says, bought a nice sailing yacht instead. So pretty interesting comment, that one, and obviously that comes from a place of budget. As we have seen, the prices for the Prado 250s are creeping up, as everything is these days, but some of these 250s are creeping up over the 100k mark, and back in, like, say 3 or 4 years ago, that was 200 series territory sort of money for their kind of base model 200. And if you have a think about what you were getting back then with the pure size of the vehicle, the drivetrain you're getting as well with the twin turbo V8 and whatnot, it's kind of like some people are struggling to see the value a little bit. And that's something that we are considering as well, is that it's the 2.8 litre turbo diesel. Is it worth us trading in our vehicle, obviously potentially losing out on money because we're trading it, of course, and then we have to then pay the extra for the now higher costing Prado 250. So is it worth spending that extra money on the Prado 250? And when they don't change much in terms of the drivetrain, it makes for a very difficult decision, because then you're making basically a decision on other things like, are the brakes better? What's the suspension like? Is the aftermarket support there? Is it more comfortable? What's the interior like? Those sorts of things come into it then, if it's not about the drivetrain. And then if we can't justify spending that extra money on getting a 250, then obviously we just keep the 150, and that's kind of where we're at. So we're trying to make the decision now. Now we are going to be test driving the GX, for example, the GXL, and we'll get back to you guys on how that went. My plan is to try to get one of those kind of GX sort of models, the more entry-level model of the Prado 250s, out for a test drive and compare, you know, my experience of it with my FJ Cruiser, for example, and our current Prado 150. Very similar vehicles, so they're kind of, you know, both that kind of sporty sort of, you know, and sporty in terms of the FJ Cruiser, and, you know, that kind of same sort of shape-ish. And then obviously the 150 is the outgoing model, so it'll be good to see how the new 250 compares to that. So interesting to see. We'll see what the GX holds for us, and it will be something that we'll be sharing with you guys as time goes on, you know, our thought process on this whole decision on whether or not we're going to upgrade to the Prado 250. So if you guys haven't subscribed to the channel already, please make sure you do that, and we'll see you very shortly in the next video. Stay tuned for some more Prado content coming your way. See you then.